Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me. We obviously, over the past days and weeks, have been very focused on ensuring that students in this province remain focused on learning in a safe environment. And I appreciate full well that many parents and educators and school boards and the kids themselves want to have some greater certainty about the future of learning in this province. Now, I'm incredibly proud of everyone involved within the education ecosystem, within our school communities. Truly incredible work being done from schools donating personal protective equipment to the front lines to help those who are helping save lives, to communities really stepping up to ensure that seniors are not isolated with students reaching out. It's these types of acts and everyday demonstration of compassion in action that I think really makes all of us proud to be Ontarians and Canadians. The spirit of Ontario is alive and well within our schools, that so many educators and school boards have worked so hard to outreach to their students, and of course so many parents and their children have worked hard to engage themselves in learning through this process with a great level of patience, and so I'm grateful to you all. With respect to the future of learning, I understand parents would like a greater sense of where we will go for the remainder of this calendar year. So the government, on the advice of the Chief Medical Officer of Health, following consecutive discussions with Dr. Williams and the command table, the government has decided and is announcing to extend the school closure period till May 29th. That extension will provide the province, the government, more time, sufficient time to review the data and the modeling so that we make the best decision based on the best medical advice to our government. And so that ultimately students remain safe and staff remain safe should they return to school at some point this year or at any time beyond. We're going to ensure that safety remains our paramount priority, which is why we're providing an additional month extension for us to work with Dr. Williams and the command table to make sure we get this right, to make sure that ultimately the students and staff, when they return, can do so with absolute confidence it is safe to do so. Right now, the command table requires more time, and they will have that time. The next time I go out, the next time I make an announcement on the extension or the future of the school year, it'll provide that final update with respect to landscape. By then, we will know. We will have updated data, better modeling, and we'll be able to provide final predictability to those that seek it, for those students and their parents, and of course for those in the education system themselves. To optimize learning for the current year, we're taking a few steps. The first is the intention of the government is to eliminate all of the remaining PA days left in the school year. That reflects about 7 for high school, 7 PA days in high school will be used for learning, and about 2 in elementary school. That's what's left. And that I think will help optimize learning. It ensures that every child is able to remain engaged every day for the remainder of this year. We're also building a strong, credible summer learning program that's going to really help expand learning opportunities to hundreds of thousands of young people, to make sure that we mitigate from learning loss, to ultimately ensure that students and their parents have a choice to enhance learning given the difficulty of this year. And obviously, the continued focus of the government is going to be on planning for September, to be prepared for whatever eventuality and circumstance our province is in, no matter where we're at in the COVID-19 reality. But wherever we will be, wherever the modeling will foreshadow, and however the challenges manifest in the coming months, I want you to know with confidence that we're building a plan for every circumstance to ensure children remain safe and to ensure students remain learning, led by their educator, under their guidance and under their leadership. So with that, I'll turn it over to you for questions.
Okay, the first question comes from Chanel from CP24. If the closure is not going to extend past May 31st, what would the summer look like with Ontario students and teachers? How will the semester be extended, and how will the education?
You know, students right now completed 3/4 of their school year in class. We've built a program that gets them to the finish line for the next quarter. At this point, we do not see a need to extend the school year. We do see a need for sure to ensure that learning continues under the coming weeks and months, led by an educator using virtual learning. It's why over 14,000 educators have participated in professional developments to better embrace virtual learning and distance learning and give them that, value-added opportunity to make that experience more meaningful for students. But right now, we don't see a need at this moment to extend the school year. We are looking at enhancing summer educational programming for parents, and of course, we're looking at additional measures that could be taken for next year to make sure that the educational integrity of a student is sound, to make sure a child is learning, and to make sure that they actually learn everything that is required within the curriculum so that we can, with confidence, know that they're graduating with integrity.
And the follow-up, or the second question is, can you explain how private schools are operating? They're only closed until May 6th, and
Right.
Are they obligated to not to extend into the summer, or will they?
The private schools, like childcare, are managed under the emergency order. Those orders is a bit different. I'm essentially closing schools until the 29th of May using an authority, a power in the Education Act. It's rarely used, but it can be used in the context of safety, for example. So I've done that to the 29th. The childcare, private schools, these types of centers fall under the emergency order, and the decision of cabinet, if should we renew that order, would impact private schools and childcare in this province.
Angela Kings from CBC Radio Canada. With the extension of, is the government putting anything new in place to support students learning at home, and are parents helping manage to facilitate that learning and coaching parents?
Absolutely. We have updated the Learn at Home portal with new materials, including from TVO and TFO in English and French, providing more access to students and their parents. We're providing, as I mentioned, professional development. Literally over 14,000 educators have signed up for this. We're going to be expanding that and enhancing it so that more of them are able to participate and improve their skills. And of course, we're enhancing the parent guides, the parent resources to enable them to be as effective as they can to support their kids. Now, I appreciate that many of the parents at home are often working at home. These children may have parents who are in the essential service economy. They may have someone who may be working the front lines in response to COVID-19. And so we're very sensitive to that. We want to make sure that as much responsibility is borne on the education system, not on the parent. And our aim is to do more of that over the coming weeks to make sure that the system bears that responsibility, that our educators who are really stepping up through this process, they continue to do so, and we're grateful for that. And we obviously want to make sure that parents and their students are best supported, including from a mental health perspective, which is why we've announced an additional $12 million, much of it targeted to organizations like Kids Help Fund, that's going to help those students who feel the angst and the pressure of the unknown dealing with COVID-19 and the pandemic.
This is also from CBC. There was confusion after the government's announcement on April 17th about providing iPads. Many were under the impression after the government would be handing out free iPads, but it's up to the school boards to use existing funding to buy them. Can you tell us how many iPads have been purchased by the school board since the announcement, and whether the government did anything aside from setting up the partnership with Apple and Rogers? And why not give additional funding so these iPads can be distributed?
Yeah, absolutely. We understand that in the virtual and distant learning environment, that technology can be a really important aid, and we want to mitigate from the differential experience. There are some people who have access and those that do not. And so the aim of school boards and the Ministry of Education is to collaborate, to work hard to make sure that every child has access to learning and to the technology required to learn. And that's why the province worked with Apple and Rogers to build a partnership, a low-cost, high-impact solution, free internet, free LTE internet, as well as free access to Apple software. This is a good program that was provincialized so that all school boards can take advantage. The ministry and myself and my authorities as minister reached out to the CEO of Rogers and the leadership of Apple personally to make sure that that program could be provincialized so we could offer more school boards a low-cost, affordable solution to the challenge of technology gaps within our communities. And I'm proud of that. Our school boards are funded just north of $75 million each year for technology. I know that those monies are flowing in real time to help as many kids as possible. And I'm grateful for the school boards who've worked so hard to survey the needs and to ultimately distribute them and procure them. And it is a partnership between all of us. 200,000 devices are currently being deployed of existing technology, often bought in part or by utilizing provincial funds. But the bottom line is school boards are leading in conjunction with the province building that program, and we're just grateful for it. And we're going to continue to work to get more of them out the door to help more young people who need it.
John Musselman, CTV, census question. What does the modeling specifically need to show before schools can reopen? What do you want to see?
Yeah, I think we're going to be unveiling a greater context on the recovery plan and some of those benchmarks. I think currently the advice from the Chief Medical Officer of Health, based on discussions as recently as a few days ago, is that we're not there today. We need more time. We need to see a reduced risk to our young people, and so therefore we have accepted that advice, as we always have. We've given us another month of time, a bit more predictability for parents at home to know this will be the norm for the coming weeks, but realizing that in the coming weeks we're also going to be working with the command table, working with Dr. Williams, the Chief Medical Officer of Health, to make sure that we take a prudent approach that maintains the safety of every child and the staff in this province. And we'll have more to say about what May 30th and beyond looks like based on the updated data. And I just want to say I appreciate for many parents the frustration, for educators, for the students. The kids want to see their friends, and we just want to have a sense of certainty. And I know in this circumstance, in the COVID world, there's not a lot of that. There's a lot of unknown, but we're working hard to make sure that you have access to that data, and we're going to continue to release it transparently. Clearly, we've made some gains as a province because of the collective adherence to social distancing, because families have stayed home, because the governments of all levels have worked together to really stem the tide that could have been in the context of people that would have been potentially who would have died as a consequence of COVID. And so we've been decisive. We need to go further. And until we get to enhanced level of improvement, then we're not going to reopen schools. And the recovery plan will help guide that process.
This question comes from several people. Caroline Alfonso from Government is one of them.
Sure.
What does the expanded summer learning program look like?
In the province of Ontario, we have a summer learning program. The aim is largely about mitigating learning loss. It's about getting young people engaged. We've got a program I was very proud to visit last year, where we have educators focusing on a math-specific program for several weeks in the summer, where kids and parents are able to sign up. It is free, and it provides daytime instruction by an educator, by a math teacher. And that is really an example of the type of programs and initiatives we're working on in real time to scale up, to offer that opportunity to as many young people as possible in the areas of competencies that matter. STEM education is critical now into the future for our economy and for our young people accessing and actually getting those jobs of the future, those aspirational, good-paying jobs that we want them to have. So an emphasis on STEM and social sciences, these are critical, and that's where the aim and the focus has been traditionally and where it will be. We're just going to be scaling it up and supporting it more. And we'll be providing those details certainly in the coming weeks as we work with partners to solicit their interest and ultimately build a program that gets more young people learning.
And this is a question from Randy Rath, CHCH.
Sure.
The architecture of schools, well, first of all, social distancing is going to be with us until we find a vaccine, and that's what and distribute the vaccine.
Right.
And that's what a lot of the experts are saying, and that could be 18 months to 2 years from now.
Mm-hmm.
Given the architecture of the school, given the design of where lockers are, it will be extremely difficult to social distance in a school environment. Can you open up schools until that is accomplished with the social distancing?
Right.
And this is also added in from Travis Denrich from Global. Will you be handing out PPE to students?
Yeah, there's. I think what those questions raise is how does government, from a design perspective, ensure that when students return, and eventually, in the fall, for example, we all hope for that certainly, that it could be done in a manner where kids are safe and staff are safe, and the entire community is safe, particularly when these students go home to their families and they visit their grandparents, and we obviously are cognizant of community spread, and so to mitigate that. There's a variety of decision points that governments right across the industrialized world will need to make, including in Ontario. We are building out a variety of scenarios to ensure safety remains paramount, to make sure we never compromise the student safety. And we're looking at them. And to be quite frank, we have to be open to all models, all ideas in the context of how schools are designed and the type of safety measures we put in place. But the commitment I can make to parents today is to ensure that safety guides our decisions in each and every example. And we'll never compromise the safety of your child, knowing how important it is to make sure that our youngsters, at some of the most vulnerable in our country, remain safe. So that is our commitment. And as we build the program based on the modeling and the reality of the day, we'll ensure that we communicate that to.
But how are we going to get 20 plus kids, teacher assistants in a classroom and still have safe distancing?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a variety of models being contemplated globally, that are being discussed. I've seen the public discourse staggering and other discussions around changing the modeling of schools. These are all discussions that will happen. They ought to happen in consultation, of course, with our educators, with parents, with school boards, with our federation partners. I mean, everyone's going to have an opinion and have a say, and I'm going to want to hear that perspective. But I'm just assuring you today, because we will not have to make that type of decision today. We'll, if students return at some point later this year, my commitment is to come back here and communicate to our program about how I could assure every parent in this province, we will ensure the safety of your child. If it requires changing how classrooms are structured or designed, we'll look at that. And we are looking at that because we have a duty, a responsibility to be open to every idea to achieve safety. And that's what we're going to continue to do. And as we get closer to a landing in a program that really reflects the need, we'll communicate it and announce it to the people of this province.
May 31st puts only a few weeks left in the school year.
Right.
How are the students that are graduating from primary school now to post-secondary school education, how are they going to be able to qualify, given the marks are usually based on the end of the school year, and is this going to create a problem in universities and colleges?
Yeah. Our commitment is that students, who are on track to graduate will graduate. We have removed the impediments to graduation, and that's something we feel very strongly, that students have completed 3/4 of the school year in class. They now will complete the next quarter online using a virtual environment. There are teachers involved. We've given guidance to the system where this period of time, particularly for high school students, is to be used to enhance marks. If possible, seeing if more coursework could be assigned to allow students to do a bit better in their course that could help their competitiveness when they graduate. But the bottom line is students can apply to post-secondary. They will get a final mark. They will get a completed, fulsome report card. And the post-secondary sector will, of course, be reviewing these applications and accepting students. I've worked with Minister Ross Romano, my colleague, the Minister of Colleges and Universities, very closely over the past month to ensure that. And his commitment and mine to you is that we'll remove the impediments to graduation. The post-secondary sector absolutely wants to see young people coming into their communities, their colleges, universities, and the skilled trades programs. And so we're going to work hard to ensure that students continue to graduate, especially as we remove impediments to graduation this year, and with a commitment to get a final report card, which is often a prerequisite.
Why not just kill the school year and just see everyone in September when you have the systems in place?
We are building a program for every eventuality, but our responsibility to parents, I think, is to make sure they're safe and to follow the advice of the Chief Medical Officer of Health. He has asked us for a bit more time. We have done that. Look, folks, if it is not safe on March 29th, if the advice from the command table and Dr. Williams and the Chief Medical Officer of Health is that they need more time, it is just simply not safe to let a student or staff in schools, then it is quite obvious our government will accept that advice. But today, he's asked for more time. We've taken a staged approach. If there is a way to save some of the school year at the back end, then we will consider that based on the advice of the command table. But today, what I can assure you is that schools will remain closed to the 29th. The students will remain learning, and our commitment is really just to make sure that every child in Ontario is engaged in a teacher-led education program between now and June, knowing that in the summer we're going to be beefing up and expanding summer learning for every student in Ontario.
Thank you, Mr. Lecce.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.